Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ruby Programming. Right, so in this episode we're gonna talk about loops. Okay, so loops in a programming world is a way to write to execute a particular or a block of codes multiple times, right? So there will be there will be scenarios where you would want to run a block of codes multiple times, right? Like 3, 4, 5 times or whatever, or depending on a variable or on a value or whatever, right? So those scenarios are handled using loop statements. Okay, or there's other ways to do it, right? Which is I'll call it a dirty way to do it. For example, let's say if the in our previous program, if the user enters Spider-Man, you want to you know run the same put statement 5 times. So you can do this, right? If you don't know loop statement, you'll probably do this, right? Which is not a good way to write codes, right? Because it's you're copying the same thing and you're writing it again and again, right? So always try to avoid these scenarios. Always try to avoid these methods, and apply loops in these scenarios. So let's get started, right? So there are many loop statements. Okay, so let's start with the basic one, which is just loop. Okay, this is what loop is, right? Loop do and whatever you write here is gonna get printed. It's gonna get executed. Okay, unless something breaks, or you can also give a break statement here. Okay, and it printed puts once. Okay, now see, what if I do this? Okay, I write num equals 1. Okay, and I do puts and I do this. Okay, if num equals 10, then break, else num plus equals 1, and then see, it printed 10 times. Sorry, it printed 9 times, I think. Yeah, it printed 9 times because 1, 2, 3, 4 till 9 times it printed, and when it became 10, it braked. Okay, so break statement breaks out from a loop. Okay, now there are other simpler loops. Okay, I'll show you one. Just times. Very simple. Okay. Easy to understand, very easy to use. Just hello. So just like what it shows, it'll print or it'll execute this code 10 times, right? So Ruby is very easy to understand. That's why, because all these statements are very straightforward, and it does what it says, right? So this is one, and then there is up to. Okay, so up to takes a limit, like what it says here. So this is an example of 5 times up to 10. So it's printing out 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? I'll show you that example as well. Just wait. Puts hello. So it's printing out multiple times. Okay, and then we have another one, down to. Oh, sorry. So down to goes from 10 to 1. Goes there's no way to differentiate between that. See, and then so let me show you what. So before that, okay, so as you guys know, this do and n are blocks, or called blocks, right? So within this do and n, you can write as many blocks as you want, right? So these are called as many codes as you would want to write, right? So these are called blocks. Okay, so the same loops can be written if there's only one line of code, right? You can write the same line as this. but this is always preferred if you have just one line of code. Okay, if you have multiple lines of code, always use do and end. Okay, so this is one way to write the code. Okay, and also there's another thing that I need to show you guys, which is index. Okay, so when I did do I, okay, within this pipe, okay, so I, or whatever you can name it, number also, this I captures the index of this loop. Okay, so index is the basically the number of times it's running and the current position of the index. Okay, say I, okay, and you can see, okay, it started with 0. It will always start with 0. Okay, because this doesn't have any initial variable like 1 and 2, and like in down and down 2, right? So it started from 0 and it ended with 9. Okay, here we can see if we do the same thing and we do, sorry, put I, it started with 1, it ended with 10. Okay, similarly here, started with 10, ended to 1. Okay, so these are the various loops that we have, and also in all these three methods, right, there's one thing which is common, right? It's either incrementing by 1 or decrementing by 1. Okay, suppose you want to increment it by 5. Let's say you have a value 5, okay, and you want to increment it by 5 times in every loop, right? So the way to do that is using the step method. So step takes two parameters, which are by and to. Okay, so by is basically the n number, right? Let's say 50, and you want to increment it by 5. Let's see what happens when we do this. So 5, 10, 15, 20, just like we expected, right? So these are all the loops that I was talking about. And then there is while loop. Okay, while loop is like times, okay, or can call it up to or down to. It's similar to all these, okay, but it's just a different way to write it, right? So while loops have only two stuff, while, then there is a condition, okay, condition, and there is end. Okay, so while loop has these blocks of code, okay, that will execute only if this condition is true. Okay, let's see this with an example. Let's say you want to write a program to get the sum of a number, okay, sum of n numbers. So how you gonna do that? Let's see. So let's take a number from the user. Number equals to getters to I, right? Now we're gonna need two variables, right? Because we're not using times or up to or down to, so we obviously gonna need two variables. One is a variable to store the sum, okay, one is the index of the iterator which we're gonna use, right? So we're gonna start with 1. Okay, now this is where we're gonna write out while statements, right? So while count is less than number, right, we're not gonna put s, just got used to put s. Sum plus equals count, then count plus equals 1, right? And here is what we're gonna print out the sum of the number, say the number also is sum, right? So what's happening here is, let's say the user took the value 10, or no, for instance let's say it's 3, okay, for simplicity, and this already is initialized, so we don't have to go there. Now in the beginning what's happening is the while loop is checking this condition whether it's true or false, right? Since the count is 1 and the number is 3, then this returns true, right? So when this returns true, it goes here and it executes this. When it returns false, then it executes break statement, right? We saw what break statement does, right? So since 1 is less than 3, it comes here, and then sum, since it's 0, sum becomes 1, and then count becomes 2. Now again count is less than number, then again sum plus equals 2, which is 3, then count becomes 3. Now since count is less than, so we need equals to, since count is less than equals to 3, again is true, then it counts that, and then it breaks. In the last loop, what happens is count is 4, right? The number is still 3, so it returns false, not flash, false, right? So then it breaks and it comes here and it executes this, right? So let's take a look at it. Enter a number 10, and we got the sum of the number 10 is 55, which I believe is correct. Okay, so this is our while loop. Now there's another loop that I want to talk about, which is until loop. It's similar to while, but then there's one difference, that is while loop executes the block of statements when this condition is true, whereas until loop executes this statement when it's false. Okay, so instead of this, if we had until, let's see what we get. We get 0 because it's not gonna work, because when it's 1 and let's say if the number is 3, it returns true, so it doesn't execute, right? So we have to change our codes to work with this. Yeah, so if number is less than count, then it goes, right? Because number is not less than count at the beginning, becomes it's less than count only if the count goes more than the number, right? So that's when we need this loop to break. So this is how we're gonna use these statements, right? You can use until and while in similar scenarios, right? You just need to decide which one is better for you to, because both while and until will work in any scenario, but you just need to decide which is much more cleaner and which is much more convenient and which takes which is more efficient, right? That's what you have to decide when you choose between while and loop. Similarly, like if and unless statements. Okay, now this again, let's say you wanted to execute this at least once, okay, before checking the condition, right? Regardless of whether this is true or false, you wanted to execute the statement at least once, right? So the way to do that is do while statements. Okay, do while statements, you call that in C. I believe the way to write this is in Ruby is begin and do while. Okay, so let's take a look at it. I'm not going to take any input for this one. I'm just going to simply show you guys how it works. Hello, my name is Anonymous. Okay. And this is here, this is where you're going to write your condition. Okay. So you see, this got executed even though this was false, right? If this was true, then it'll execute this infinitely, because since it's a loop, that's why, right? So similarly you can do until, right? See, so yeah, these are all the loops that I wanted to talk about in this episode. There's again another loop which is called for loop. We'll discuss that in the future. I think this is good enough for this episode, and then again we have each statements and stuff which we'll discuss again later in the episodes. So I hope you guys liked this episode and had fun. And also by the way, all these codes, sample codes of every episode, I'm making a GitHub account for these for this channel, and I'll upload all of these codes in the GitHub, so you guys can look it up if you guys have any problems or something, right? So yeah, any problems, any questions or anything you didn't understand, you can ask me in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to answer all of your questions, all of your doubts. I'll make sure to clear all of your doubts, but I need interaction for that, right? So I urge you guys to ask me, or if you have any doubts, please do let me know, so that I can clear them. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this episode. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.